So welcome. I'm going to share my screen briefly. Get the right one. Can everybody see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. When I run this, I have two screens and I can't see anybody here. So if you were nodding, I couldn't see you. Welcome to our final transition roundup for the 23-24 school year. I almost said 24-25. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So today we're going to be talking to Katie Gran about some of the summer pre-ed camps, and we have a few self-advocates here today as well to talk to us about the accommodations they had at high school and what they found useful, and to tell us their stories. Before we start, a few announcements. If I can get this to work, there we go. Coming soon to your inbox. Actually, it should be in your inbox already. It's a TSLP Scope of Services survey. It takes about 5 minutes to complete. We do look at those results and we do take them into account. So please take a few minutes, help us out, help us help you. Let us know what you need from us and by completing that survey. And of course, we're always here. Your regional liaison is always available to you. Just call, email us. We're here to help. Be looking for the Transition IEP workshops. We are setting dates now, so look for those dates coming on Canvas. We'll also be sharing those with you via email as we come up on them later this summer. Some of us are a little stuck. We can't book rooms until 90 days ahead, but those are in the works right now. So looking forward to 24-25. What do you want to hear on these roundups? We'd love to get your input. We want to make this a very productive time for you, and we want to make this pertinent to what you're doing. So let us know. Contact your liaison with any suggestions you might have. And we're pulling the old switcheroo on you guys next year. From conversations we had this last summer, we decided it would be more beneficial to students if we flipped our Catch the College Wave and Let's Talk Work events. So we will be having Catch the College Wave events coming in fall of 2024. So be looking for those in the fall instead of the spring. We'll be having Let's Talk Work in the spring of 2025. We are in the process of scheduling those as well, and that events flyer will be coming in August, possibly a little sooner. So be looking for that. We will be sharing that with you, and it, of course, will be put on our website as well. 25th annual YLF, it's coming up very quickly. We're June 2nd through 6th at NSU. So be watching our Facebook page for the fun as we have our 25th annual, the silver anniversary this year. Also the annual Transition Summer Institute down at Cedar Shore in Oklahoma. July 10th and 11th, registration is open now, and the link to that is at the tslp.org website. We can also get you that if you contact your regional liaison. And of course, the TSLP Facebook page, like I said, we'll be sharing information there as well if you're a Facebook user. So if you check there, you'll be seeing schedules, you'll be seeing results from events, you'll be seeing pictures of our delegates as they enjoy YLF and the conferences and whatnot. So if you're a Facebook user, be sure to friend us, or I'm sorry, follow us on that page, and we will share information with you. Does anyone have any questions about that? Or comments? Anything for my fellow liaisons? Okay, well then on that note, I will turn everything over to Katie Gran.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Katie Gran. I am the VR transition specialist. So I work with the counselors statewide to make sure that they have the resources they need to serve the students with disabilities that are on IEPs and 504 plans while they're still in secondary school. One of the projects that I work on throughout the year is the summer pre-ETS. Pre-ETS is pre-employment transition services. So that is focusing on career exploration, employment soft skills, instruction and self-advocacy, information about post-secondary options, and kind of all of those, they go hand in hand with a lot of the services teachers provide to students that are on IEPs, but then we're just kind of focusing it and trying to move it into when they turn into adults and they're out of secondary services. So one of the programs that we provide funding for are summer camps that are hosted throughout the state. Hopefully you can see my screen. But these are available to students with disabilities that are between 14 and 21 that are still receiving secondary services. There's a variety of camps around the state that I'll scroll down to soon. But the main topics are career exploration, job and life skills, self-advocacy, and for students to learn about available community resources to them. As you can see, there are a number of camps that are around the state. So if any of these are in your area and you're interested in learning more about it, to get a flyer specific to that camp, or just anything, you can contact the people on this flyer and I'll share it with Kate, or I'll put it in the chat. So then that way you can have the contact information. Some of them are filling up, so if you are interested, please contact them as soon as you can. There are a few that are specific based on the disability type. So Lance does the South Dakota DROP, which is Deaf Resources and Outreach Programs. His camp is more for students who are deaf or hard of hearing. And then Kirsten up in Aberdeen has some camps for students that have visual impairments. So those are the two camps that are kind of disability specific, but all the other ones are open to people in the area if there's room. So I would encourage you to reach out to these folks if you want to learn more and to see if they still have any availability. And I believe I heard that there might be another one in the Sioux Falls area, but I don't want to share it because I don't know if that is still happening or not. But if I do, I'll be sure to share it with TSLP so they can pass it along to everybody that might benefit from that program as well. Any questions for me at all about the summer camps that I can answer right now? Otherwise, the other big thing with VR is we are changing our payroll program, our payroll process for Project Skills. Look for more information about that. We're going to be, I'm going to be doing the first transition roundup to kind of explain all of those changes. It's a very exciting change. I'll be reaching out to all of the Project Skills contacts that get my quarterly assurance of match report here at the beginning of May. I'll be sending that out. And I'll be sending out some information about that then too, but it's a very exciting change. And so hopefully you can join us in August to learn all the excited changes with that. Otherwise, I just threw in that summer camp flyer in the chat box.
Thank you, Katie. And we can put that, we'll share that on the TSLP Facebook page as well. Any more questions for Katie? Okay, thank you so much for sharing that with us today, Katie. That's a great list of camps and they are all over the state. So I'm excited to see that. Our next subject today, I'd like to introduce you three young men who've come to visit with us today about their experiences. We have Henry Roth. He is a student at USD. And he will be graduating this in like less than a month here. We have Matt Bailey from down in the Mitchell area, and he has been a very good friend of TSLP, as has Andrew Perleyberg. He's here in Aberdeen. So, gentlemen, if you want to just introduce yourselves briefly and share what you'd like to share about your story, we'll start with Henry.
Well, okay, my name's Henry Roth. I go to, I'm a senior at USD, and I have had, some struggles. So back in high school, I had a traumatic brain injury that really kind of changed the way, I think and how I remember things and concentrate. So back in high school, I was taken out of public school, put into an independent study program, due to, seizures and things that I was, going through at that time. Uh, so I went to that alternative learning, and it was nice because I had time to do things on my own, whether it's, times when I can actually. So I went to that. So then once I graduated high school, I came to USD in 2020. It was a eventful year, but so I started here at USD, and I've had to relearn how to learn essentially. Uh, so I was in contact, with the disability services office here, and I had, I've been working close with Karen from that department. So I got accommodations such as a note taker in class because it can kind of be difficult for me to keep up with lectures talking fast and having to write things down. Uh, so I was able to get that, a note taker, and then also extended time on exams. So for me, stress is a very significant trigger for my epileptic seizures. So having that extra time on those stressful exams, it really helped me be able to just do my best. But that's the accommodations I've gotten through college. But other than that, I think it's really important that these students have support because it can be intimidating. But like I said, I'm graduating in like a week, so I mean, you can do it. You just gotta, use your resources, and people that work in these programs are very important because I think it helps a lot of students and get through, graduate, and be able to, be successful. Well, thank you guys for letting me be here. Glad, I'm always happy to share my story. And I see. Thank you, Katie. She also said go Yotes, so
Yes, she did.
I agree. I
I
agree.
have a question. If can I ask a question, Henry?
Yes, yes,
This,
sir.
this is Dan, and I work with Kate. What's your major, and what do you plan to do when you get done?
I work, or my degree's in public health. So my curriculum kind of was the studying of the anatomy piece, the legal piece, policy. It's pretty broad, um, but I plan on going into medical research. I've done just finishing up my thesis right now, actually. So that's what I'm planning on going into. Moving up to Sioux Falls, I got a position there at Sanford. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my plan for now. But I'm excited for the future. I'm excited to see how I can,
Thank
be the
you.
best person I can be. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. That's awesome. Matt, would you like to introduce yourself?
I am Matthew Bailey. So I was born completely deaf in my left ear and partially deaf in my right ear. And so around eighth grade, the hearing in my right ear got worse and my grades started getting worse. So um I went to high school in Parkston and they have a resource room for people with disabilities. And so I got my hearing aid around this time, and I also I don't remember exactly what grade it started, but at some point I started using the resource room for taking tests. And then when I went to college, that was also one of my accommodations was a quiet private area for test taking, except I never used that accommodation in college because I didn't think it was necessary, but I used it in high school.
What college did you go to, Matt?
Dakota State University.
Okay. Andrew, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Excuse me. I'm Andrew. I went to high school in Frederick. I graduated there in 2011. I was kind of a late bloomer with my disability. I was roughly around first grade. It was springtime. We were doing story problems in math, and my teacher noticed that I wasn't really reading the problems. I was more just following along. So I kind of was a very late bloomer with that. They got me tested. So I have a learning disability. And then years later, through my years, I've had okay, now my cat's bothering me because she hears me talking. Ninja. So throughout my elementary school years, I did a lot of like resource room things. Like I got pulled for a lot of different things, like mainly reading. And then over the years, I got more accommodated for myself. Like when I got to high school, that's a whole different story. When I went to high school, my depression and my anxiety really became a big thing. I was in and out of True North many, many times. Um, with that, also, I barely graduated high school. I actually became an independent uh, student in high school when I was a senior. I actually had to get a South Dakota advocate to help me with that because my principal in my school was not very supportive of me. My special education teacher, she was very supportive of me. She was that type of teacher that went past the teacher aspect and more of like, I understand, Andrew, I want to help you. And then I graduated in 2011. I went to Northern State University for 6.5 years. I started out with psychology, and then I actually added a special education degree because I always wanted to be a teacher. But I realize now that it's too much for me to have that hat on my head because Bev probably remembers, I moved down to Scotland, South Dakota to be a teacher there. It was too overwhelming. I had too many kids. I guess in the long run for me, it showed me that it's okay to try something new. And if it doesn't work out, try something different. Because I've been working for the city of Aberdeen. This will be my 8th year that I've been working for the city. And I realized that I actually really like customer service, which is kind of interesting for the person that I am. But for accommodation wise, I guess my main thing in college and even in high school, I used private testing rooms, extended test times. I did have a test reader back in high school, but I kind of started going away from that because I wanted to start self-accommodating for myself instead of relying on other people. So that's a big thing right now, even in my life. I actually have my VR counselor again. So hopefully they're going to help me find some winter time jobs. It's like part-time because I don't do really much in the winter time. So my biggest thing with the accommodation thing is that the resources are there, but for me, I wanted to learn how to accommodate for myself. So throughout high school, I slowly started taking my accommodations away. Like I even started testing in the room with my classmates and stuff like that. And I guess my biggest thing, and I know schools are different and the resource rooms are the way they are, but in college, it was nice to have like, this is my own room. I'm the only one in the room with a noisemaker compared to Frederick. When I had to take a test, I was in the resource room and there was so much going on sometimes that it was very hard to test. And I know that's just one thing that I think it would be nice for schools to have like a place for students and not like just a resource room, if that makes any sense.
It does, someplace away from distractions and not in an already busy
Mhm.
zone. Agreed.
Yeah.
We already had a question in chat, which is great, and Henry already answered it for us. The question was there anything that you found helpful during your independent study to keep you motivated and on track? Henry replied, time management and discipline was the key. The
Yeah.
staff at the alternative learning school was an excellent resource as well. Did you want to expound on that a little, Henry? Or does that pretty much sum it up?
Here, I didn't know we were going back, my bad, but
Oh yeah, we're gonna
um,
go back and forth.
okay, yeah, I think for me, motivation, you know, and that drive to want to succeed. You know, my family also played a big role in that. But I see the question here. Did someone give you a list of things to accomplish in a day? So it was based on week schedules. So they would send out the material, and then you would get it done. It's kind of like the you know, like a standard school, I guess, online class. Um, but I think the flexibility uh, was was key to that as well. Uh, and I've kind of learned through college, you know, that really helps to have that, you know, structured time, you know, itinerary for the day. Uh, so I use that every day, and you know, I still do it. Um, but yeah, I'd say it's all about that motivation and time management piece.
Excellent. Andrew, excuse me, you also had independent study. Is there anything you'd like to say about that? What was helpful? What kept you motivated? How did yours work? How did your assignments work?
Um, I guess for me, I agree. It was a lot of time management. I guess the biggest thing for me in college too, that was kind of interesting. It's like, oh, if you have a test, you have to be the one to go to disability services, tell them, sign up for the test and all that stuff. So, and also in college too, with the independent study thing, I actually did undergrad research and I actually went to a conference in Minneapolis. It was a disability conference. That was a lot of work. But that was like, you know, trying to figure out like how to do it, keep myself motivated to do it, and set myself like, you know, a lot of it's like, I guess, goals, like those short-term, long-term goals that we always talk about. Like, this is what I need to do, this is the time I'm going to get it done, and this is when I'm going to get it done. And also reward yourself. Like I did this, you know, I go get a coffee, go get, you know, I did that all the time at Einstein's. Like I deserve like a bagel or something because that like writing a paper or something or doing that undergrad research, it's a lot and it can get very, very overwhelming. And I guess on top of that too, counseling services are
Mm.
very, very helpful. I saw a counselor throughout college. I still see a counselor that really helps with a lot of trying to self recognize your emotions and regulate your emotions and how to so you don't get overwhelmed so you can actually keep that time going so you're not doing things procrastinating because I mean I can be a big procrastinator sometimes.
I feel that. So Matt, we've touched a little bit on what people's accommodations were in high school. Was there, you know, what did you have access to in high school, and do you think it prepared you well for college, or is there something you wish you could have had in high school?
So I don't really remember like specifically what, but I just remember taking tests in the resource room. I think there was something to make the tests easier. Like I can't remember if I don't think the tests were modified, so I don't remember what it would have
Maybe
been.
shortened or something
Maybe
like
that
that?
was it. Oh, I think maybe fewer, like with multiple choice tests, maybe fewer options,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. And of course, so that's a modification, and you don't get modifications in college, you get accommodations. But as for what I wish I could have had in high school, I don't know. I think I like had, the access to the accommodations I needed. It was just more of I wish I would have taken my high school studies more seriously.
I think maybe a lot of college students and adults say that now as well. Um, we have a question in the chat, and you gentlemen can answer as you see fit. Would repeated, simplified, clarifying directions be helpful for any of you? I see those a lot in our IEPs. So would one of you like to address that? Just,
I could.
okay.
So in my case, it's more helpful if it's written down, because if somebody just tells me, then like I might not hear it all or I might forget. So I find that, I mean, repeating helps, but I find that it's easier for me to just have things written down.
Henry, do you have thoughts on that? If repeated or simplified or clarifying directions would have helped you in high school?
I think so. Some classes and assignments, could be a little confusing. Um, but I think the main thing with that is making sure that the instructors know that they're supposed to give you, this other document or paper. Um, that was a little bit of a struggle in high school. Um, but I think they would be helpful. I mean, I definitely say high school, that simplified piece, it helped me gain the confidence to, kind of understand the complex stuff, if I know what I mean. But I guess that's how I my experience with that.
Hey, thank you. Andrew, would you like to address that?
I mean, I agree. For me, it really depended on the class because of my learning disability. Like, I mean, like instructions in like science, I could get like easily because I mean, I love science. I understood it. I could do the homework. I could do labs. But when it came to like history, I'm like, what? Like that did not like I needed more instruction. I needed more understanding from history. But even going on top of that a little bit for me, and this is going more towards like an IEP type of standard, I think it would be like the older that kids get, I think they need to be explained more the IEP process because that was my problem in high school. I never knew like I mean I knew I had a disability and I knew I was different than my classmates, but I never knew my disability until I went to YLF in 2008. Like I never fully understood this is what I have, this is what the state and federal government and all the schools are supposed to do for me. If I would have known that, like maybe like my junior high year, like when I was like a seventh or eighth grader, I think the process would have been so much easier to transition into high school and maybe even transition into college to transition into adult life. I think that was one of my biggest things. I never fully understood like what does all of this mean until I was really, I mean, I was like a sophomore when I went to YLF the first time. And that's kind of for me personally, I feel like that's kind of late to like, oh, this is the process and how we do things. And I know that's very situational depending on the student. But for me, it's like if I would have got explained certain things, I would have understood what was going on. But I don't feel like I was explained enough.
And I think I speak for all the liaisons on this call when we say we wholeheartedly agree with you. And Megan Van Heerdy, she says, I am trying so hard to get our students to buy into their IEPs in the process. So thanks for the encouragement. And
Yeah,
thank you for doing that.
that's one thing too. Like students need to be encouraged to like be able to understand their IEP. So when they do get older, like when you become like a ninth grader students, like you have a say in that IEP. I mean, you do even in elementary school, but that's a little different story because you can't fully understand it. But seventh and eighth and onwards, like you have a right to say something. It's your IEP. You might not have be an adult and have like your rights or anything, but like you have an opinion. And I think students need to be told that more, like, or even asked more often, like, how do you feel about this? Because this is your education. I mean, we have opinions as teachers and you guys as liaisons, like we all have opinions on what we can do for kids, but we're not that kid, you know?
Hey, thanks, Andrew, for sharing that because, at YLF, we always ask you to come in and do your part of your specialty, which is disclosure. And obviously, that's a pretty important piece to the whole process, especially for students when they get out into the world. But just your opinion on when that process of learning about your disability, being able to disclose when you need to disclose, and those kind of things. If you don't mind sharing that.
The big thing about the disclose not disclose, good thing you brought that up. I was actually in college. I took a health disability class, and my professor, Dr. Slota, had this whole, I don't know if you want to call it a unit or whatever, but she had this whole class time. It was a 3-hour class at night, and she did a whole 3-hour idea of this disclose not to disclose to your employer thing. And when she did that, like it just stuck in my mind so much where it's just like, wow, I never really thought about that. Like I know I have to be self-advocate enough to talk to people to be like, this is what I need. But I never, again, kind of goes back to like, I never knew the process of how to do that. If somebody would have told me or helped me, I guess in the long run, if I was more self-advocate in high school, I could have asked. But like, I was going through a lot of, hard times in my depression. Like I didn't feel like I could. And that was one of my biggest things in high school, even elementary school. My teachers would always tell me like Andrew needs to ask more questions and all this stuff. But I never felt like I could. But then I got to college and then Dr. Slaughter was a big input on me when it came to that whole self-advocacy thing too, and the whole disclose not to disclose thing. Because I always say, like, if you don't, it's better to have them and not need them, and then need them and not have them, type of thing. So, like, always talk to your employer and see what you might need, and if you don't need them, at least they're still there, set in stone.
Bev, did you have a question or a comment?
Huh?
I noticed
you
you
say-
unmuted, so I thought I'd ask.
No. I didn't
I
know.
just, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
No. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, I just wanted to thank you, Andrew, for talking about how important it is, because yes, it is very important, and not just knowing, say, that you can say what your disability is, but actually knowing what that means. How does your disability affect you at home, at school, out in your community? And it's just critical. That's the first thing we talk about, right? When we get going at YLF, is to be able to understand not only what it is, but how does it affect you? It's going to affect you differently than someone else who has the same disability you do. But that's really the basic skill need that everybody has in order to then turn around and advocate for yourself. So, and you're doing all of you guys do such a great job at that. It's amazing.
And one thing I've learned too, no matter how old you get, you will always be learning something different about this like this whole topic. Like you will always be learning, finding new ways to self-advocate, to accommodate yourself. Like it's crazy. No matter how old you get, you still got to do it, and you're still learning.
Absolutely. Matt, I'm sorry, did you have a comment?
No, I thought you were talking to me when you were asking earlier.
Oh, sorry.
Well, Matt, I did notice that I don't think we asked you, or I don't remember you saying what your degree was. You went to college at Dakota State, right?
Yeah, my degree was film and cinematic arts.
Was what? I'm sorry.
Film and cinematic arts.
Oh, okay. So did you participate in some plays and productions when you were there?
Yes.
and continue to, I believe, right? In the
Yeah,
community?
I'm still doing that in Mitchell now.
Cool.
You're quite the actor from what I see on Facebook. It's awesome. Did any of you gentlemen, either in high school or during college, use any kind of assistive tech? Any organizers, any programs or apps that helped you?
So I don't know if any of you have ever heard of the Echo Pen at all.
Mhm.
Has any?
Yep.
Yeah. So I used that, and that helped with that not being able to keep up with the instructor in the class. It would record that lecture, and then if you like tap in your notebook, it'll go back to that specific moment when you wrote it. So that kind of piece, so that was very beneficial for me. They keep coming out with new ones, so yeah, that Echo Pen was really beneficial for me.
Awesome to hear. Our yesterday was my Catch the College Wave, and Tim Weiland from Dakota Link was telling me about, or telling the whole group about, a program called Glean, which is similar as well. So there are things out there. Matt or Andrew, did either of you have access to assistive tech, or maybe could have used it?
So one of my accommodations in college was a note taker, and so, well, I had two different options. One was to have somebody speak the notes into a machine, some sort of machine, and it would the notes would automatically appear on a computer. I tried that way my first semester, and after that, I found after that I tried the other way, which was just simply having somebody type down notes and send them to me. I did that way after my first semester.
Neat. Andrew, did you access it at all?
I didn't really, I mean, I did utilize assistive tech a little bit in high school. Not much, like, what is that called? That program that reads you. Now I can't remember off the top of my head now. Is it Kurzweil?
But yeah, well, I think that was a writing software, but I
What?
can't remember.
I can't either for some reason, but I
This is
used
why
that in
I don't
high
work for Dakota
school.
Link. They do.
I used that a little bit in high school when I think back in the day, a lot of the schools got grants for a lot of that assistive technology. I mean, I don't know for sure. I'm probably pulling that out of my butt, but I used that a little bit, and I didn't really like it. Like, I didn't like the computer voice. I would rather have somebody actually reading my test. But I kind of went away from that. Kind of like I said earlier, slowly went away from teachers reading my test. And then the other one I did use Dragon for a little bit in college because my mind just races all the time, and it's hard for me to get my thoughts onto paper, and it's easier for me to speak it and have it write it out for me. And then I could go back and just, take this, put that there, and write my papers. I did utilize that a little bit too, but I wasn't really that big. Like, I don't think I really needed the assistive technology. It was just nice to have it when I needed it.
Awesome. We have another question in the text, or in the chat, I'm sorry. Did you have permission from a teacher to record the lecture either in college or high school? And Matt, you said that someone would like read the notes into like a tape recorder or something, but could you actually tape the lecture?
Well, I guess I never thought to try it. I'm not sure if we would have been allowed to or not.
Okay. Henry, Andrew, did either one of you try to access anything like that?
I didn't know. I used a note taker for a little bit, but like, I think technically as a student, like, you can record lectures in college. You just have to let the professor know. So they're not like, what is this recorder sitting on the table for? Like, you have to be a self-advocate. Like,
Right?
I never used it myself, but I had some friends that did use recorders in college, and that's what they've said. Like, you can, it's just let the professor know you are using that accommodation so they're not, blindsided.
Henry, did you ever do that or have anybody that you knew who did recorded lectures?
Yeah, so at the beginning of each semester, the Disability Services Office sends out a disability memo to
Oh, yeah,
all
what
the
about you?
instructors stating this student has this, and this. And then it also would say um, is able to record lectures via Echo Pen. So I guess the biggest thing that is definitely disclosure of that, that you're going to be using that, because some instructors may be uncomfortable with it, but if it really benefits their students, I don't think they would mind. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is just letting them know.
I'll
Good
stop
input.
hiding behind my keyboard here and just speak.
Yes,
Um,
please.
Just another question, curious. I'm sort of new to this transitions position. I'm the occupational therapist, and alongside of that, I do transition IEPs. And so I was just wondering, like, were there any accommodations that were added in college that you didn't get in high school? Like, I'm worried that my seniors, if we miss an accommodation or we take an accommodation off, that they won't get it in college because it wasn't on their like initial IEP. Like, what does that process look like? Have any of you been able to successfully get another accommodation that wasn't listed on your high school IEP?
I think that really kind of just goes back to being a self-advocate. Because like, I mean, when we graduate high school, like, I mean, yeah, your IEP is still there. Those accommodations are still there. You can, as a student, we can use that, but it's more of like that you need to go talk to like the way I did it is I went to go talk to the disability coordinator and like, this is what I had in high school and what can I get in college? And I kind of told her like, this is what I think I need. And then we put it in place. I guess, I don't know about that one.
Matt or Henry, do you have any input?
Well, so I don't know if note taker was an option in high school, but it was not an accommodation I got in high school. So, maybe I could have, but I never asked for that one.
Henry, I'll give you a chance.
Um, I guess back in high school, I was able to have that extended time on the ACT. That was a long process. It had to go through, the organization and everything. But I was able to get that extended time on that. But in high school, it was working closely with the staff at that alternative school, um, and then kind of going into that college piece. I'd go in, I'd meet with the disability services, the director and the staff there, um, and kind of explain what I needed, what I had in the past, um, and yeah, it's just going in there, um, you know, connecting with the people that you need to connect with, but also you got to be open and honest about it as well. But yeah, I think using your people that work in the department and all your resources that you can get that stuff that you need.
And I love how you gentlemen are all bringing up, keeping those lines of communication open and advocating for yourself and telling that disability coordinator what you need. That's exactly what students need to do to get those supports. So at the end, when you exit school, when you leave school and you graduate, you get something from the school called the summary of performance. Did any of you take that to your disability services at your college to show them what was going on in high school, what your strengths and needs were, and what you needed in college?
I don't even remember, to be honest. That
It's
was so
been a
long
minute.
ago.
Yeah, I don't remember ever getting that, but yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember either. I know I had meetings with my disability coordinator going into college, but yeah, I don't remember that.
Okay. That, I know it's been a while for you guys, so that's okay. But yeah, of course, we do encourage students to do that. So the experience you had in high school with your accommodations, with the supports you had, did you feel ready to enter college? Henry, would you like to start? You look thoughtful.
Um, I sorry, could you repeat the question again?
The supports and the accommodations you got in high school, do you feel they prepared you for college?
Yeah, I think it gave me the confidence, that the people, understand. And then like the counselor in high school, gave me a lot of advice, and we looked at schools and went through the process. So that was also nice to have. Um, but I think so. I think, yeah.
Matt, would you like to comment?
Well, what prepared me for college was attending the youth leadership forum as a delegate in 2008 and 2009.
Awesome. Do you feel high school gave you a good foundation for what you found in college, your experience?
Um, I think if I took high school more seriously, maybe, but not as much as it probably could have.
Mhm. Andrew, would you like to comment?
I think I got a pretty good foundation because my special education teacher was pretty good about like, explaining things and how, this is what college is, and even asking me like, not even pushing me like you want to go to college, which I mean I did, but even those small things of like I remember this one, like, do you know your social security number? And I'm like, no. And she's just like, well, that's gonna be one of your goals on your IEP because you gotta know that for like everything. But even like those small little things, like, oh, absolutely. I think like those small, like even life skills, like not even just the education aspect of it. Like, oh yeah, I was very, very well prepared for college because I even got accommodations on my ACTs too. I took a test today. I had extended test time. I even had accommodations for my praxis test for my education stuff, which that was a big headache because I had to go through like all of this testing and stuff to prove that I need accommodations, which VR was very helpful with that too, because they paid for it and all that stuff. But I got those accommodations. But yeah, I would say like that high school with the whole my special education teacher explaining things and like Matt said, YLF and like these programs. Oh yeah, they really prepared me enough to understand like this is what it's going to be and I have to be a self advocate, but on top of that, it doesn't prepare you enough to like know yourself and this is who I am as a person, this is my disability and this is what I need. That's something I don't think even high school or anybody can prepare people for, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But like I was prepared. It's just in myself. I I know I wasn't prepared, if that makes sense.
to me, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, that internal, intrinsic motivation and whatnot and maturity. I totally get that. Does anyone else have any questions for Henry, Matt, or Andrew before we have one final wrap-up question? Okay, so the last thing I'd like to ask you, gentlemen, is what would you tell high school teachers from your experience to help their students that they have now get ready to go to college? Who wants to start? Any words of advice?
I think my biggest thing, and this is one thing my special education teacher did for me, And I mean, yes, I have the teacher mentality because I do have, the background. I have a sped degree. I mean, I don't have my teaching license anymore, but I do have that mentality. I think teachers need to remember that, yes, we're there to, teach kids, like, this is what I need to teach you. This is the curriculum that I'm required by the state and federal government to teach you. But we also have to remember that we're all humans. Like, no matter the age of the kid, that's still a human being. And, I can pound math or science or whatever I need to into your brain. But if you're not physically and mentally, I'm trying to figure out how to word myself, like, there to actually understand that education, like, teachers need to take a step back. And I know that's hard sometimes, but take a step back to realize that every kid is different. Every kid has a different background. Like, that really plays a role in how I feel like my high school career went. Because I mean, I'll admit it, I had a very emotional, abusive dad growing up. He's a lot better now, but like, I was emotionally abused as a kid. And that affected me even to this day. And my special education teacher understood that. She's like, what do I need to do for you? Like, when I went to True North the first time, she's like, don't worry about school. We will figure that out. You take care of yourself. So I think that needs to be priority. Like, it should be priority number one, but like, I understand as teachers, like, the education needs to take priority. But we have to remember that other priority that kids do need.
Absolutely.
That's my biggest thing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Matt, Henry, do you have any final thoughts for the teachers? Not so much? That's okay. Oh, Henry, go ahead.
Well, I think that, just being understanding, of, what it take, just being able to relate, I guess, would be the kind of, main thing that comes to my mind. Just having someone to relate and, give you advice to go into college, because it's a completely different ball game. I found that out quite quickly, but yeah, definitely just having those resources, I'd say.
Matt, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that, and like just being understanding of students' disabilities, um, and kind of what they need, and just kind of offer them advice on how what they can do to get help, and like some kind of thing of like this type of stuff that YLF teaches. That's kind of stuff that teachers can also offer advice on that, like on self-advocating, asking for accommodations, talk to your disability coordinator, and so yeah, and I think that's so I agree with what they said.
Well, thank you so much, Henry, Matt, and Andrew, for joining us today. I think the information you shared was extremely valuable. From you, you've been there, it's your perspective, and we really appreciate that. So thank you so much for taking your time today. Thank you too to Katie Grand for sharing those Prietz camps. And I will be having those, putting that graphic up on the TSLP Facebook page. And if anybody has any other questions or comments, you can sure filter that into the chat or through us, and we know how to get hold of these gentlemen. So thanks again, everybody, and have a great summer. We will resume the transition roundups in the fall. So thanks again for coming.
Thank you guys for everything.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.